In our local newspaper, The Reporter, Becky Howard is featured this week as the 2020 Monroe County Mother of the Year. Her daughter nominated her for this recognition, and in doing so, she acknowledged and recognized that as an emergency medical worker, her mom spends hours caring for other people's loved ones before coming home and then caring for her own. This is work that she does throughout her life in all of her responsibilities, and it is remarkable and worth noting. It is appropriate that she is mentioned and named the Mother of the Year, especially in this time, as someone who in her work comes in close contact with the coronavirus, in much closer contact than any person should and needs to be. But she does so out of care. And so her daughter says, "So happy Mother's Day, Mom, even though one day isn't enough for you." And indeed, that's true. One day is not enough, and even one mother is not enough to mention out of all those who care and do their work in very different circumstances. But Ms. Howard represents all of those mothers in all of their situations in life and whatever their responsibilities, in giving loving care to others within and beyond their own families. The Gospel of John features love. It talks about God's love for all the world that sent God's Son, Jesus, into the world so that we might be saved. Love is the organizing principle in this gospel for the community of disciples and for the community that will become the church. There is no higher priority than agape, that is self-giving love. Nothing is higher than that. In a South Georgia town, Albany, Georgia, the COVID-19 virus has hit very hard. The numbers for their infection rate and deaths look more like metropolitan numbers in Fulton County or Cobb County in Atlanta. The rate of infection and death per capita is on a par with New York City. A county resident, Elaine Williams, who's 61 years old, watched her 38-year-old son take his last breath on April the 3rd over a cell phone screen. He tested positive at the hospital for the virus just 2 days earlier. I don't want to even imagine what it was like for this mother to go through this experience. And since then, her friends and neighbors have gotten sick, and some of them have died. 126 in Dougherty County so far. She says, "It's all so disturbing to me. Every time I look on TV and see those numbers, I'm like, my baby is in those numbers." The love that she has, the pain that she feels for her son is striking. Any mother would feel this and feel this way. She cares deeply and has been deeply hurt. In funeral services, I sometimes read the passage from chapter 14 in John, the passage that Jody read for us today. Not always, but often. And when I do, I like to mention to the family how Jesus says that he will send a counselor the Holy Spirit to be with us, to walk with us, but also that He is preparing a place for us so that where He is, we may be also. No one is more loving and more caring than Jesus. In Renton, Washington, Michelle Bennett was caring for her 75-year-old mother, Caroline Gann. She was not able to be in the hospital with her mother, who was suffering from the virus. Just not being able to be there, she said, and hold my mom's hand, rub her hair, tell her things that I wanted to say to her. It was such a helpless feeling. But a charge nurse in this hospital, dressed in protective gear, and used her own personal cell phone so that Michelle could tell her mother goodbye. She says, the nurse put it right up to my mom's face, and I could tell my mom that I loved her and how much I was going to miss her. And the nurse told her, she will not be alone. We will stay with her to the end. The expression of love in this circumstance is so deep. This time, the daughter for her mother. You'd be interested to know that the mother, at age 75, had spent 38 of those years as a nurse herself, caring for many people who had come under her charge and comforting them and sitting by many of those, I'm sure, who were in their last days. Now she is being comforted by a nurse herself and being loved and comforted by her own daughter. The love that we give often is inspiring the love of others, so that love continues to grow and bless the world. My wife, Nell, and I were working in the yard this week and trimming hedges. Nell called out to me with some excitement and anxiety. My son Philip and I had seen a black snake in the yard a couple of weeks earlier, and I was afraid that Nell had found that snake. But no, she had discovered a bird's nest in the bush that she was trimming. She called me over, and I looked inside, and it looked like there was a baby bird there, but it was so still and fragile, I thought it was dead. But when I looked closer, I could see it was breathing, and next to it was an egg that had yet to hatch. We came away from that bush to give it some space. We care about animals. We wanted to help that baby bird and that egg. And we can consider ourselves reasonably intelligent, and we are living in the 21st century with access to more information and more resources than any other generation in the history of the world. But the smartest thing that we could do was to step away. It was to let that nest alone. It was to step back and allow the mother bird, if she was watching, to come and do what she does best. The mother bird is smarter, kinder, and more loving toward her nest than I could ever dream of being. And indeed, the mother bird, a cardinal, returned. And later, the male showed up with a worm. Just as that mother bird could be trusted for the care of its nest and of its babies, so Jesus can be trusted. As children of God, we can look to Jesus and know that we are loved beyond measure, that we are loved and cared for in ways beyond our comprehension. Jesus comes to us and promises us that we will not be alone, that the Holy Spirit will be our comforter, our counselor, and our guide and strength. And that when we come to our final destination, when we arrive, we will not have to worry about knowing the way. Jesus will come and find us, and He will take us to the place that He has prepared for us. We are loved and cared for in this life, in our journey, and our final destination is sure. No one can love us more. No one could be more caring than Christ. And so today, on this Mother's Day, let us trust in God's love, rely upon His care, and in our lives share that caring and that loving in our families, in our community, in our church, and all whom we encounter. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, let it be so.